but there were times I had to get him man-to-man.
And your favorite team that you guys love to face in your division?
Yours.
Yes, sir.
Like the games like we play against the Raiders, you might get 3 sacks when they had Demarcus Russell, which I did. So I got 3 sacks on them in the first half, right?
Yeah.
And I'm ready, and they take Tommy Maddox.
What's going on, everyone? It is time for another episode of West Forum Rivals. I will be your host tonight, Corey. Got the guys with us, minus Caleb. Caleb is off doing work duty tonight, or this week, so he should be back with us next week, so we'll hold the fort down for Caleb. Hopefully he'll pop into the chat. So let's get going tonight with some sponsorship shout-outs. So shout out to Troy and his group over at Field Ops Kansas, Angie and her team at Emporia State Federal Credit Union, Buy Day Coffee, Rival Codes, and the one and only Jeff and his team at JBW Solutions Studio. And let's get going. We have another returning guest tonight. He is Jesse Newell with The Athletic. So let's go ahead and get Jesse in here and get going. Jesse, how you doing tonight?
Doing great. I regret now. I saw the Post 5 Legion shirt that you guys wore earlier. I have mine upstairs. I should have worn it. So next time I'm on this show, I promise you, Post 5 American Legion Emporia shirt will be out.
Yeah, and I don't know how I'm still able to wear it, for one. That was back in its day, but yeah, it's still a good shirt. And you had the Spartan hat on last time, so again, always repping Emporia, love it. Matt, Cody, I encourage you guys to check out Emporia sometime. Way better than California. So
check out Emporia.
Check out Emporia.
We make Twinkies. I don't really know what else there is to do there. I don't even think we have putt there anymore, actually. So there's like $3 stores.
Yeah, within a radius. So
we can make our own putt is what you're saying.
So Jesse, we're wrapping up the season. Obviously, the combine's getting ready to come up. So we're gonna have some questions about kind of the Chiefs off season and kind of the landscape of everything. Obviously, there's been some news drop in the last 24, 48 hours about some former Chiefs players. So, Cody, we'll go ahead and get it going with the questions here with the league landscape.
Yeah, so Jesse, welcome back, man. I know that you were one of our first guests season 1, so we appreciate you giving us your time back. And now a lot has happened since your last appearance, but what was the biggest surprise or storyline across the NFL from a team, player, or just around the league that caught everyone off guard?
Cody, I feel like I have to apologize to you personally for hyping up the Raiders in the preseason.
You know what? Everybody on the screen has had to make amends with me because I blame them for my heartbreak. My crash outs were because of them. So
I'm so sorry. Well, I think that you're probably in a better position than the Jets, so you can take that for what it's worth. You know what's happened since then. Biggest surprise, I mean, the Chiefs got to be toward the top of the list. I was seeing some preseason predictions out there from people. Like Scott Van Pelt and you just assume the Chiefs are going to be not only in the playoffs, but in the thick of the AFC and potential Super Bowl contenders. So that's atop the list. And obviously the 2 Super Bowl teams that end up being there, Seattle and New England were not 2 teams that we went into the season thinking, oh, these are the top of the top. But, I think it does go to show for this particular season that there are some things that are a little bit outside your control. And sometimes things go well for you. I think we saw it with the Patriots schedule. They got confidence. Their starting quarterback started getting confidence. Their first-year coach started building confidence in their team, and all of a sudden you end up in the Super Bowl. And Chiefs, it sort of spiraled in the other direction. We've seen them win so many close games. We've seen them so often just have that Mahomes magic, making the close plays late. And when that thing started to fall apart, unravel, they just couldn't get it back together. So those were some of the surprises, but I think it is sort of a little encapsulation of what the NFL wants to be, which is they don't, as much as we don't all want to see the Patriots back in the Super Bowl, after a short delay of that. It is designed that like, hey, you are not good. You get an easy schedule. You get a good coach in, you get a quarterback, and all of a sudden you can be at the top again. So
yeah,
a little bit more random, I think, than what people give it credit for. And I think we saw that with the top teams and then some of the teams that didn't have expectations like the Chiefs as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. And with that said, I think once everyone kind of started to see the Chiefs struggle a little bit, everyone was like, oh, the Chiefs are done. You and I both know that is far from the truth. However, are we starting to see a power shift in the NFL getting away from the Chiefs? And who do you think are the teams that are leading that push?
Well, I think the reality for me is when I'm looking at the sportsbook lines for the futures odds for next year, and it really surprised me because I thought that everybody would go immediately back to the Chiefs and say, okay, that was a 1-year deal. And they didn't. The Chiefs are not the favorite to win the AFC West next year. They're not the favorites to the AFC, one of the favorites to be in the Super Bowl next year. Even teams like the Bills, who replaced their coach and had that whole fiasco ahead of them, the Broncos, the Chargers are up there. So, I do think, I was one throughout the course of the season that said, hey, this team is closer than it looks. They lose these close games that could go either way, and all of a sudden it doesn't look as good as it potentially can. But they've got a lot of things to answer this offseason. And you guys talked about the combine and free agency. So much of what they built their Super Bowl success on was that 2022 draft class. Well, those guys are up for free agency, and they're going to lose most of those guys because of the cap space that they don't have. So this will be a big offseason for the Chiefs. Obviously, every offseason we say, oh, it's the biggest one because it's Mahomes prime and you can't mess it up, all these things. But this is a really important one for the Chiefs just because if they're going to play the stars and scrubs mode, sort of like they have in the past, and pay their guys like Creed Humphrey and Chris Jones and Patrick Mahomes and all those guys, you got to fill in with some lower paid talent. And so this draft is going to be a big one for them, and signing some cheap guys in free agency as well. But, I mentioned some of those teams, and now it seems like the Seahawks have arrived as well and kind of taken over the NFL in a different sort of way in the NFC. And we've seen what the Rams can do under Sean McVay. It seems like they're going to be a power play again. But it feels like the AFC is open, but open with a lot of teams toward the top that you would expect. And so this is not Chiefs or bust like it's been some of these other years. I think this is a real challenge, and the Chiefs are going to make up for some of those positions if they're going to lose this offseason.
And I think maybe just me, but I was kind of surprised to see the Chargers were favored to win the AFC West next season, or going into next season. Because, yes, we can say the Broncos did this and this with the schedule that they played. They won 14 games. They're not going to have the same exact schedule next year. We play the NFC West. But I think you would still like to think that with Bo Nix and Sean Payton back, that would still give the, defending AFC West champs a little bit better odds, right?
I was surprised by that. If you'd have told me a team besides the Chiefs was going to be favored, I would have said the Broncos. You have add in the home field advantage, the altitude. We've talked about that before. It's really tough to beat them at Mile High. So yes, I think it does speak again, maybe back to the earlier factor we talked about, which was the injuries. And you look at the two teams in the AFC West that really just got completely annihilated by injuries this year, and it was the Chiefs and it was the Chargers. And we know that the Chiefs offense looks a whole lot different when you have your tackles solidified. And we know the Chargers, it seems like they're injured every year, but if the Chargers have a little semblance of pass blocking, then potentially you could see them going further. And we know the Mike McDaniel hire is splashy as well. And his marriage with Harbaugh is going to be something to watch. Who knows where it's going to go. But you sort of have that motivational figure up top, and then you've got sort of the offensive guru, genius, run game guy now as the OC. And so I can see the optimism there. It feels like the offseason is always Chargers season. It's always, Chargers are going to win it, and then they never do. So this is their year to prove it. But I'm in agreement with you. I would have picked the Broncos over the Chargers just because of what happened this particular year and the advantages the Chargers or the Broncos do have. But it should be another competitive AFC West. I would definitely expect the Chiefs to be back in the mix again, just based off of returning some of that bad luck that they had a year ago.
Yeah, and mentioning quarterbacks and Mahomes, we saw some quarterbacks that kind of elevated this season. So kind of in your opinion, who were those quarterbacks that kind of elevated into the next tier, and maybe some of the quarterbacks maybe took a step back?
Like Geno Smith.
Like he was never on a tier.
Well, he was on a lot of NFL analyst tiers. I know, like, hey, and listen, this guy, I remember saying it on this show, like, hey, you get to go from bad quarterback to average quarterback. That's a huge leap. Just got to get average. The Raiders did not get average, unfortunately. No. Fernando could be average, maybe start average.
Well, if he's the number one overall pick, I'm hoping for a little bit more than an average. But again, alas, we'll see.
Average, I'm telling you, like average is good. Average can be good. But yeah, I mean, the obvious ones, Drake May struggled in the Super Bowl, but throughout the course of the year, him being in the MVP race, him doing what he did, that's obviously one of the guys that ascended. Geno Smith has to be mentioned on the other side of it, just because I was one of the believers. I thought, hey, you get this level with the Raiders, and all of a sudden everything looks a lot better. But the top still feels to me like the top. We'll see what happens with the Bills, but Josh Allen still feels like it's really good, and Lamar Jackson when healthy is tough to deal with. We'll see if the Ravens can get themselves back. It seemed like they made one of the good coaching hires of the offseason. But I would say most of those tiers stayed solidified. It is funny, though, to kind of track the MVP races because every season somebody can jump up. But I think if you are a follower of the Chiefs or if you are watching the Chiefs, you feel very confident because even if Mahomes didn't win MVP this year or last year or the year before, you feel like him fully healthy is among the elites in the NFL. It gives you a chance to win. And that's where you're at if you're Buffalo. That's where you're at with your Kansas City. That's where you're at when you get Fernando Mendoza and you draft him. You are right there. So Mahomes just turned 30. I wouldn't, say there's a fork in him. Obviously this is kind of when usually quarterbacks are at their very best. We'll see how he comes back from that knee injury. But as far as the top tier quarterbacks, I expect most of them to be like they were a year ago. But, it was good to see Drake May and him taking a different team up there and giving some different competition in the AFC to some of these top contenders.
Yeah. I've got a question before the next one I'm supposed to ask, but and this is more on the MVP because it was kind of a hot discussion with us before the awards, but do you think the MVP is catering too much to the quarterback position? Like, I feel like this year there should have been maybe a discussion of positional players getting the MVP rather than a quarterback because I can't remember what the statistic is. It's like 8 of the last 9 MVPs have been a quarterback. Do you think that maybe it's driven too much towards the quarterback and it should be elevated like in terms of like a full football field and position?
I think it should be clearly defined. And if we're going by value, if we're just going by value, it's always going to be a quarterback. We know that because quarterbacks are the most valuable position in all of organized sports. Take hockey, take baseball. I mean, any of them. Like it's the quarterback. They do the most among any sport out there. So they're always going to win because whoever's the best at that position is always going to win value. And it seems like the offensive player of the year has de facto become running back, receiver. So
sure.
I wouldn't mind if they just said most valuable quarterback and then most valuable other offensive player if you want. But I felt that way watching the Super Bowl as well, where the defense obviously won the game for the Seahawks, but like you're going to give it to Kenneth Walker because, okay, you're going to take the one guy that got the interception or the one guy that got the sack. I mean, you're kind of divvying this up among other guys. And because of that, de facto, the running back is going to win that particular award. So I think it's probably, if we're honest with ourselves, that's what the definition is going to be, is just quarterback taking it. But if it was more well-defined, I have no problem because to your point, I mean, the Puka Nakuas of the world, could have been the discussion if you're looking at this and saying, hey, value to team what they did. Jackson Smith and Jigba had a great year as well. So I could definitely hear the argument for it. It just feels like I would want to be more transparent. And if you're going to say MVP, just say most valuable quarterback and then go off the player. Let's all be honest with ourselves about what this is. And then we won't have these sort of discussions because we'll just say the truth out loud to start with.
See, Cody, and that's where we got our debate is we had different opinions on MVP, right? You are who adds value and wins to your team. And to me, I just want it to be the best player. To me, that's why I died on the Myles Garrett hill. The dude had he broke a record, but yes, his team didn't win a lot or anything. But to me, the MVP is who was the best player this year. So like you said, if we were just more defined on MVP, because everyone has their own opinion of it, right? And it's not defined. So he kind of cleared that up for us, Cody.
Well, it is fascinating to sort of go into the numbers too, because I know Kevin Cole used to work for Pro Football Focus. He has something really interesting, and he kind of weights almost like a war-like metric to every player. And then he, at the end of the year, goes position by position and says, hey, is there anybody close to a quarterback on this thing? And actually this year, the receivers did sort of make it in the area of the quarterbacks. And so we'll get closer to that, I think, with the more metrics and the more people study this sort of thing. And, Myles Garrett obviously had an amazing season, but this is where we get in trouble because we're about to talk about the draft, I'm sure. And it's the same thing. Like, I can tell you right now, and you see this on these draft boards, like Caleb Downs is one of the best players in the draft. Safety. How much can a safety help you? You know what I mean? Like, do you value that? Or do you say, hey, take this edge rusher. He might not be as dominant, but to pay an edge rusher who does this in free agency, you got to pay $20 million, $25 million. To get the top safety on the board in free agency, you're paying $12 million, $14 million, $15 million, whatever the case may be. So this sort of value thing, it does feel unfair to like Creed Humphrey can be the best in the world at his job and he'll never sniff MVP, even though he might be the best player at his position of anybody out there. But that's sort of how these things are weighed. And in the end, even if Creed Humphrey has a dominant year, like we saw from him this year, how much does that move the needle for the Chiefs? Not enough to get them away from 6-11. So that's sort of the debate you have to go with. And I can definitely see both sides of it. But when it comes to value, we know that quarterbacks You have a good quarterback, you got a chance to win. Yeah, you get hurt or you don't, it's going to be rough for you. And that's the way the NFL works.
We could definitely have a full analytical episode with Jesse. That might be on the books down the road. We could get his analyticals.
Yeah.
Into that.
What I was going to say is it's funny, Jesse, you're bringing an analytical perspective. And when we had Carl Pickens on, he was just saying, I respect the people that do the draft research and the numbers and all that. But sometimes you just need to turn on film and use your eyes and just see how he's producing. And sometimes he feels some players are dinged because for some reason, them doing this on this play or them running this route or whatever, it's designed to do something, but it doesn't show up analytically. But yet, he knows he's contributing to the team. And his point was, I kind of wish some that are evaluating just have also played said position. So that way, look, your eyes tell you that they're a good player, not even though it doesn't show up on the numbers wise. So it's kind of cool to hear two different perspectives on evaluating.
Well, and I think, so we're using the word analytically. And again, I've been the analytics guy for a long time, covering KU basketball, and now trying to bring it to football. But I think where it gets lost a little bit is analytics is information. And so what you're talking about and what Carl was talking about with using your eyes, watching film, scouting, that's information. You want that. You want that as part of it. And so when you're studying the numbers, it won't cover everything, just like studying the film won't cover everything. But it's adding to the research and the depth of knowledge that you have to potentially eliminate as many blind spots as you can. So I don't think it has to be an either or the Moneyball scouts versus numbers sort of thing. In the end, what you're trying to do is marry all these things together and make sure you're not missing something obvious. And so, I know one of the guys we're going to talk about, or that all potentially the Chiefs will be talking about if he gets to him, is like Reuben Bain with his arm length. And you're going to hear about his arm length so much. Oh my gosh. Why would people care about his arm length? Well, the reason is if he succeeds in the NFL, he's going to be an outlier of an outlier. Usually guys with this arm length do not succeed. So do you want to be the team on the hook that says, we believe in this guy over the top of that? His film's great, guys. He busts up all the plays. He gets all the pressures. But when you get to the NFL, it's a little bit different. You know what I mean? So that's where it all comes down to. And why you hear about this so much is because this is what these teams have to do. And they have to live with themselves when they make these decisions. And they are multi-million-dollar decisions when it comes down to it. And so, I wish, to me, when I'm looking back at this whole thing, I wish analytics, it just sounds nerdy and didn't play the game and off in the corner and down in their mom's basement. It sounds like that. But in the end, you see these teams, and the Seahawks have a long list of analytics people. A lot of the recent Super Bowl teams have a long list. It's really information. It's saying, hey, that's great. I mean, the Chiefs are one of the best scouted teams out there. They get a living on scouting. But is there something we're missing? Let's make sure we're not missing something through these numbers and through the information, the stats that are out there, and make sure we log everything we can to make sure that something that trips us up is not something we could have seen coming to begin with. So I think those two things can be married. And I think the best organizations are ones that are marrying those, whether it's in the NBA, MLB, and now NFL more than ever. It's tough to gauge 11 versus 11, but there's more numbers out there. And the more you can do, obviously, the more that you can try to avoid mistakes. And that's what these NFL teams are paid to do. Yeah.
All right. Now back to the question I'm supposed to ask you. So yeah, there we go. So which hire or system change had the biggest on the field impact this season? And why wasn't it my Raiders? And it does say LOL. So I know who wrote this note. Thank you, Austin.
I got you.
I wish I could just pick your Raiders for everything and just keep apologizing to that. No, I mean, listen, I said, thinking about change. I know Seattle's been there a couple years. It was interesting covering the Chiefs preseason game in Seattle. I don't know if you guys remember it, but the Chiefs had just come off another West Coast trip. They had to go home and went back real quick, and they just got bludgeoned by Seattle. And it was a weird feeling because it was like this team is ready for the season. Like they were ready to play, and the Chiefs were sort of just in preseason mode. And so I know that's a couple years, but it seems like defensively what Seattle's doing is kind of ahead of the curve and getting to a place that more teams are going to copy. So we'll see where all that goes. Obviously, Mike McDaniel, we talked about the hire. I know he just got fired, but some of the run game stuff he does, it seems like people are going that way. The multiple tight ends from the Rams, the 13 personnel, it seems like that is going to be a thing. And it solidifies to me that one thing the Chiefs maybe underratedly didn't have this year that they've had in past years, they've always had a blocking tight end. And this year, Robert Tonyan kind of impressed in training camp, but he's a pass-catching tight end. They didn't bring back Blake Bell. and they didn't have that guy to potentially just put in there to block. And Travis Kelce, for the Hall of Fame career he has, he's no longer that guy for them.
Mm-hmm.
So to see them maybe get a just true blocking tight end, I think would be good this offseason, because Andy Reid loves his tight ends. And again, we've seen now the Rams really cater themselves, kind of going backwards. I know a lot of these teams seem like going backwards in time, but under center, 13 personnel, heavier looks, and trying to take advantage of some of these lighter defenses. So I don't think that stuff's going away, and I think you'll see a lot of copycats this offseason. I'm not sure how much the Chiefs are going to go to that, because Andy Reid has his system and it's worked well for so long. But I do think a lot of teams are going to be looking at Seattle and LA Rams film and trying to figure out exactly what they can do to mimic those particular two teams, which seem to me like two of the better teams in the NFL throughout the course of the season.
Yeah, and we've mentioned a couple times that, all sports kind of go full circle, right? I know kind of in my youth it was multiple tight ends, heavy on heavy, and kind of run out of that. And then it went spread. What can we do? And you see some of these teams starting to get back under center and, an extra big man here. So I'm ready for it personally. But I think this time next year we're going to be talking about, Bieniemy, and I'm really excited for our receiver coach. Was it Shea?
Chad O'Shea. Yep.
Yeah. I think this time next year, EB and O'Shea will be the answer to this system change, because I think Bieniemy being back is huge, just from a locker room perspective. But I think there's going to be a little bit more run game scheme fit that he's going to bring, just from his time with Ben Johnson, right? And honestly, our run game was a little better with him when it was here. Now, I don't know. Do you think that was more talent-wise? Do you think he had any input on that? And should we expect a better run game?
So it'll be interesting because, Bieniemy went to Washington as the OC and they threw it a lot. So he's still an Andy Reid disciple when it comes to that. I do think the new ideas thing can be good. When we talk about guys that revolutionized offense a little bit in 2025, Ben Johnson comes to the top of the list. Big surprises in the NFL. The Bears have to be atop that list. I know they had some lucky things go their way too when it comes to turnovers. I think you guys can check me while I'm talking, but I think the Bears' point differential was lower than the Chiefs this year. I'm pretty sure it was. So again, some of that you don't expect these results to happen, but that's what happens in the NFL. But when it comes to Bieniemy, I think the Chiefs. I've written about this. I wrote about it before the Super Bowl last year. But the process that the Chiefs have when it comes to offensive play calling, Andy Reid has done this going back to way back in the Holmgren days when he would relay in calls. But he calls a one-word play. The offensive coordinator dials the whole play into the quarterback, and then the quarterback runs it. This offense is always going to be Andy Reid. It really is. He designs the plays. He comes up with plays throughout the week. I was talking with Matt Nagy last season, and he said one of the coolest things that happens, he believes, during games is they'll make up a call during the week, and they have a white marker board in the locker room. He said he loves it. It's almost like watching Beethoven, do composing or, whatever. But Andy Reid, what if I do this? What if I do this? He starts writing something. And they'll have it ready for an opponent and base it off an opponent. And he says they'll run it in a game. And he says the coolest thing that comes to him is that he knows the defense can't be ready for it because that play has never been called in NFL history.
Right.
Just created it 3 days ago. So that's the sort of thing you're talking about with the Chiefs offense. And I don't think they're going to stray too far away from who they are. And, I've talked a lot about this. When the Chiefs were healthy and had their tackles in and Patrick Mahomes was comfortable, their offense on a per-play basis was really good this year. Then things unraveled. They lost their tackles. They fell apart. He got hurt. Everything spiraled in the last 3 weeks, and they were the worst offense in the NFL. Maybe trying to be the worst offense in the NFL. A better draft pick. I'll leave that for you guys to decide. But Bieniemy's hire, to me, signaled something very important, and it seemed like Andy Reid was not denying it, which was just an accountability factor, just a guy that goes after people. And I think you saw certain times this year when they talked about being this close and being one play off or one moment off, that the details were not there. And the details were not there because they felt like they weren't disciplined enough. And they weren't disciplined enough because they needed a bad cop to Andy Reid's good cop, basically. Right. So that's why Eric Bieniemy's back. I'd love to tell you that he's going to bring in fresh new ideas and spruce up the run game and all that stuff. But I don't think that's what he was brought in for. I think he was brought in to yell at training camp and to make sure that receivers don't drop the football and that they focus on their routes and that they make their routes crisp. And I think they desperately need that because they just told us they desperately need that. So him being back in the building will definitely be something at training camp will hear. We always hear him yell finish. The running backs will catch a 10-yard pass and have to run 50 yards to the end zone on the other end in 95-degree heat. That's what he does. But the Chiefs might be better at the details next year because of that. And like I said, by his actions and his words, Andy Reid has told us that he feels like his Robin to his Batman needs to be that guy that yells and screams and holds people accountable a little bit more. And so we'll see if that helps the Chiefs here this next season.
Yeah, I don't like to hear that. Thank you.
I think inside I was hoping that EB and DeMarco Murray, I was just hoping that they were going to like just hit us with a new wave of like a run game. I know very unrealistically, I just think inside that's what I was hoping for, just a little more involvement in the run game, especially with Mahomes coming off a leg injury, right? Like, you know, there's a lot of running back free agents. There's that Jeremiah Love cloud around pick number 9. So I don't know. I think it was just a part of me was hoping there would be a little bit more into the run game. So I guess we'll see. We'll
see how it plays out. Honestly, from that perspective, I think personnel can help the Chiefs a whole lot. I mean, their blocking is fine. Like if you look at what they have on the offensive line right now, it's first-round pick, second-round pick, highest-paid center in NFL history, highest-paid guard in NFL history, and then Jalen Moore, who was their second highest free agent acquisition last season. So they should be set along the line there. They block well when they go short yardage. They're good at it. They just need more explosiveness. And you guys talked about the trends of the NFL. I think that's one thing that's top 4 teams, the last 4 teams did really well was they created explosive plays. And the Chiefs are really bad at that. I mean, they started out the season trying to throw the ball deep, got a couple of them to Tyquan Thornton, but those things really dried up. And so whatever can help them make the offense easier, get more easy buttons on offense, that's something they need to pursue here in free agency in the draft. But the Chiefs have a lot of cap room to clear up. But despite that, they have got to be day one buyers at running back. I mean, Breece Hall, Kenneth Walker, Travis Etienne, pick one of them. I mean, there's a ton of them out there, but they have to come away day 1 or day 2 of free agency with one of those guys as a starting running back, then figure out another guy in the draft. But that has to be at the top of the list. Maybe nothing else on the list, but that has to be on the list. They got to get more explosives out of their run game, and they have the blocking to do it.
Yep. Do you think it needs to be one of those top shelves, or would you be okay with like an Algier, Rico Dowdle? Do you think that would solve part of the issue?
One of them. Cool. Yeah, Dowdle wants to be a starter. I mean, the thing is, the Chiefs should be an attractive offer to any of those guys. Algier wants to play. Like he was behind Bijan Robinson, didn't get his carries. I mean, the Chiefs should be atop those guys' list because they have opportunity and they have a chance to. I mean, any running back that walks in here and gets a 30-yard run is going to be beloved in this city for a long time. In 3 years. So the answer is yes. I mean, if you're Brett Veach, the market is good for you in free agency. You don't have to outbid anybody if you don't want to. But they obviously had some trade interest in Breece Hall midseason last year. So you probably start there. You see how much cap room you can clear. But if you don't, you just mentioned Kenneth Gainwell. I mean, there's a bunch of other guys. Javonte Williams. I think there's a list of players that can fit that role of like, if you get nobody else, he can be your starting running back. And the Chiefs need to take advantage of that depth and be able to clear some money to sign one of those top guys because they've identified it. We've identified. We all know they need a starting running back who can get some big gains. They have not had that for a couple of years.
Yeah. Cody, we'll go ahead with your question. Starting in the 2025 Chiefs season segment. Unfortunately, it happened. We do want to talk about it a little bit, I guess. So go ahead and kick us off there.
All right. So Jesse, so we're zooming out of the season. How should the Chiefs fans, Austin, view this season? Is it an off year? Is it a huge step back? Or is it just a recalibration type of season?
I think out of the whole media landscape, you've probably found the most optimistic person on the Chiefs out of anybody out there, just because I know the offense trailed off late, but I see legitimate reasons for it. And I saw statistically the first 12, 13 weeks an offense that could succeed and thrive. But then you lose both starting tackles. That's tough. I mean, the thing about the Chiefs losing both starting tackles, they didn't just lose both starting tackles. They were down to their 6th and 7th tackles. They lost one in preseason, and then they lost 2 more of the backups during the season in Wanye Morris and Jalen Moore. So all of a sudden, I mean, Chu Godric is one of the international pathway players. Yeah. Guys, like, I mean, him being over here and playing professional football is an amazing story. His story was never starting tackle for the Kansas City Chiefs. He never thought that was his story. I mean, Chu's a great guy, but like that was never – he's the 7th tackle on the roster. He's like break glass in case the broken glass of emergency got broken. Issa Pole, they cut him. The Jets pick him up, have him for a month. He comes back to the Chiefs, and 3 weeks later, he's starting.
Dude balled out though.
He did, but he had some rough games late. It's the same thing. It's like, how the Chiefs, like, they don't want to put guys in that don't know the playbook. I mean, this guy didn't have the playbook for a month. So they got to a place at tackle that's just untenable. Now, you can say to me, the Chargers had an untenable thing and, still made the playoffs, still were able to succeed. I'll hear you on that. I will also tell you that the Chargers fired their offensive coordinator after the year anyway. So it's a no-excuse league, and we all know that. But I just look at, again, the numbers take me back to where I think I need to be. And if the Chiefs ranked 31st in pass efficiency and 32nd in EPA per drive, and if they had all these measures that basically correlate directly with winning, and they were all stinky, then I would tell you guys this is a problem. I mean, if they had the New York Jets offensive numbers, I'd tell you this is a problem. This is not good for them. They didn't have that until the last 3 games when everybody was out and they were basically trying to lose. So I think I was looking in NFL history since 2000. Only one team had a worse record in one-score games than the Chiefs did this year. So like you're talking about a once in quarter century type of season where you're going 1-10 in close games. Not going to happen again. Even average luck there, you get a few more wins. So I'm not saying they're Super Bowl contenders next year. I'm not saying they're going to be as good as they were when they went to the Super Bowl last year. But I think what probably screwed people up was the 15-win team was probably more like an 11-12-win team. And last year's 6-win team was probably more like a 10-11-win team. And so now you have these 2 big outliers, and nobody really knows where to fall on the Chiefs. I think they're probably going to be back in the 10-11 win range. They're going to be back in the playoffs. They're going to be a tough out for anybody. And if Mahomes is as healthy as I think he's going to be, just based off of the rehab that he normally does and how quickly he gets back, then they'll be a team that is going to be a dangerous one in the playoffs, and one I definitely know that the Buffalo Bills will not want to see.
I do want a little caveat before yours, Matt. This question came from me, a Chiefs fan, the one Matt's about to ask. It may not be fully true, but it was coming from the mindset of a very disappointed and sad Chiefs fan. So just keep that in mind when he asked this.
Well, I'm glad you're making the Broncos fan read it. How cruel.
I was going to say.
Is it dead or what's going on?
Well, there was a few times where I was like, oh, look, it's the Raiders versus the Raiders when it was supposed to be the Chiefs just because of your offensive blunders. With that said, though, what do you think one of the main reasons was that offense just wasn't clicking this season?
So, I started with what I think the biggest thing was injuries. I think that losing not only their tackles, but their top 6 tackles, I think just derailed them. And we have seen, Austin Court. I mean, you guys know this. There are 2 versions of Mahomes. We've seen it in Super Bowls. We've seen it in the playoffs. We've seen it in the regular season. There's the Mahomes who doesn't think about his protection, and there's the Mahomes that's looking over his shoulder, always seeing where the pass rush is coming from.
Yeah.
And about weeks 6 through 9-ish, it was the Mahomes who was not looking in any direction other than his receivers. And guys, I wrote an article for The Athletic this year about Mahomes being the MVP favorite, betting favorite. That happened this year. Like, he was the betting favorite to win MVP when Rashee Rice had not played yet. Their offensive numbers were pretty good for a long time. And then that sort of became a situation that they couldn't recover from. So I would say that I just think easy button is kind of a catch-all phrase, but like they tried to throw it deep early, and then Tyquan Thornton, when Rashee Rice came back, didn't get as much playing time. They didn't find that deep threat later because Xavier Worthy, with his dislocated shoulder, didn't seem like he was his full self. And because of that, I just remember the one play from the Chargers game where they tried to get a 3rd down. Rashee Rice beats his man on a slant right off the snap, and Derwin James just shoots down like a laser and just tears him up and breaks up the pass, concussed, barely plays the rest of the season. But like, I think that's the moment in Chiefs fans' mind they're thinking, oh my gosh, the offense is figured out. I think it's more of like either it was play recognition, which they've got to get taken care of in the offseason. If people can recognize your plays and play that fast against you, that's bad. But the other part is just, we hear Patrick Mahomes talk about this all the time. You have to loosen up the defense vertically. You have to find a way to make sure that safety can't just buzz downfield on you like that and tear up your receivers anywhere close to the line of scrimmage. So when it comes to explosiveness, we can talk about runs. They had one, God, I want to get the stat right. They had 120-plus yard run from a running back all season. 120-plus yard run from a running back all season. Yeah, having like 4 or 5 would help. But I do think if you're looking in the draft in the first round and potentially what they can do, getting Xavier Worthy back and with a new receivers coach, I think is a big deal and fully healthy. But I do think they could use a true X receiver, somebody who can beat man coverage, who can help out with some of those answers as well. And I think they could be shopping the top of the draft for that as well, just because their receiver situation is a little bit murky when you look to the future, and especially with some of the offseason stuff that Rashee Rice seems to always get himself into. So it's weird defensively, man, because you want to talk about fluky things as well. I wrote this as at the Athletic, but the Chiefs, I looked up stats, True Media, you can kind of dive in and look at certain situations. It was just fascinating. But you look at third downs, fourth quarter, 1-score games. Okay, third downs, fourth quarter, 1-score games when the Chiefs were on defense. Last year, they were first in the NFL. This year, they were 32nd in the NFL. They were 35 points different this year, worse. Just on third downs, 1-score game, fourth quarter. I mean, it's an unbelievable thing, which to me is like, how do you fix that? You just do. Like they've always been clutch until now. And so that's a free 17 points if you're just average at that in these weird close game scenarios. I think the Chiefs can improve themselves without really improving themselves. So they're going to have to fill in some positions. They might have to trade Trent McDuffie based off cap things. We'll see, what happens with that. Leo Chanel is a big contributor, Jalen Watson. So they're going to have to fill in some pieces. They need more defensive linemen, but I don't think they're as far away there as you think. It's just, man, in these clutch situations, they were just so bad. And I don't think it can be repeated. I don't think they have an encore like they did this year, but it counts all the same, and that's what contributed to a 6-11 record. And that's why we're not talking about the Chiefs being in the playoffs or the Super Bowl. It's because they totally flipped the narrative on what they normally are.
Well, and as a Broncos fan who watched Sean Payton throw screen after screen after screen after screen and more bubble screens to Marvin Mims and continuously tried to do it, I wasn't hurt by watching the Chiefs offense at all this season. So with that being said, how would you evaluate the receiver room for the Chiefs? And is that kind of a position of need this offseason?
Well, yeah. So it's interesting. Today we did our mock draft, beat writer mock draft for the Athletic. So we have a beat writer choose every player down the line. And so I got to 9th pick, and Carnell Tate of Ohio State was still left on the board. So that was my pick. But I think the Chiefs could definitely draft a receiver to start with. It's interesting because when I put it in the little blurb about why the Chiefs might be interested, guys, can you name the 2 receivers that the Chiefs have under contract past next season?
I mean, I can let them go.
Xavier Worthy.
Yeah, Rashee Rice.
And Jalen Royals. That's right. Yeah.
That's it.
It should be Tyquan Thornton, though. I'm going to be pounding the table for him, just FYI.
Yeah, well, it's fascinating with him because he did provide the Chiefs with like that deep ball threat, and he seemed productive when he was in. And then when Rashee Rice came back, he barely got any playing time. So how do the Chiefs feel about him is the question too. But yes, the question of the offseason to me, or question of the season maybe, is this Rashee Rice thing. I don't. Football. We're talking football. The Chiefs love Rashee Rice and what he does and how good he is after the catch. They constantly call him a running back. He's so good at those tough yards over the middle. He turns a 6-yard gain into 13, 14. When he's been healthy, he's been good. He had a couple key drops last year. It just seems like the accountability thing with him has always been an issue, and it's continued this offseason. And there's been more of those things in the headlines. And he desperately needs a second NFL contract because he's got lawyers to pay. He's got victims to pay based off of his car crash. So I don't know what becomes of that. I think the Chiefs, football-wise, would love to have him back, would love to re-sign him, would love to lock him in long-term. But it's a matter of, can you trust him now? And obviously he's on probation too for the car crash as well. So that's a big key part of their offseason. And if they don't retain him, then they've got a lot to answer for at receiver, especially if you're looking at 2027 and beyond. So, big year for Xavier Worthy. They traded up in his first-round pick to get him and had a hurt year last year, but need more out of him. And then, like I said, I think you have to draft one. Didn't see anything from Jalen Royals last year. So they need receivers. They've probably got to sign one of those guys that you talked about, Juju or Tyquan Thornton or somebody, just to fill out the room. But this could get dicey for the Chiefs if they don't address something this offseason. But the Rashee Rice one, to me, is kind of the thing that everything circles around because they love his production. They love what he does on the field. It's just a matter of, can they trust him off of it? And I don't know that answer right now. And I don't know what their answer should be from the GM's office based off of the actions he's had in the past.
Yeah,
that's
go ahead.
I'm a fan of Xavier Worthy because he's from the Central Valley, which is where I'm at right now. So I hate that I have to root for a Chiefs fan, or a Chiefs player, but I was surprised that he wasn't utilized more this past season. But
I think
I wonder about the shoulder. I do. It feels like he lost a step with it, and he was a little bit tentative, and then so he didn't complain about it. I want to give him credit. He didn't say that was the reason for his bad play or lowered play. I also do. Listen, I feel old saying this. Connor Embry, the Chiefs receivers coach that just got fired. I covered him at KU. He was a walk-on kick returner at KU. So I have a story on him. If you could look back in the archives, like 2013, writing about him as a college kid. So I like Connor. But you want to talk about accountability and getting after somebody and teaching them the nuances of the position. Connor was a young coach, and it was not his personality to get into guys and to hold them accountable and to be, come on, guys, let's get together, let's go. It's not his personality to sort of, get after guys. And so I'll be interested in what Chad O'Shea does, because you want to talk about maybe some of the nuances of route running, some of the things that the Chiefs receivers I've watched. I mean, you watch some of these other receivers and you're like, the crispness of the route running, the openness they get, like the 49ers are the example to me. Like I watch the 49ers receivers, I'm like, they get so open because their routes are so good. And I don't see as much nuance from the Chiefs in that regard. So I'll be interested to see what Chad O'Shea does and what his coaching style is. But I think, to your point, Cody, I like Xavier. I like him in the locker room. He's a good guy to talk to. I do think there's more in there that they can tap into. It just feels like he hasn't developed at the rate they want him to. A healthy year would definitely help him as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, and I am excited for O'Shea. You just look at the list of receivers he's worked with before as well. Going to dive into what my favorite part of football is, which is defense. And, the Chiefs, you mentioned a little bit, but the defense this year, specifically pass rush, really plummeted compared to what they had been the previous few years, especially with sack numbers. Do you think that was a scheme thing, personnel, age, fatigue? What do you think played a factor into that? Is that truly a worrisome thing, or again, is it kind of an outlier season?
Probably like one of each off the shopping cart. So I think what concerned me the most, my biggest concern would be this. Steve Spagnuolo has been so good at getting blitzes and unblocked pressures. Yep. That went away for the Chiefs this year. They didn't have that. That would concern me, because that was like the Chiefs' easy button on defense. You think about the Super Bowl and McDuffie streams off the edge, and the 49ers don't know what's coming. It's the biggest play of the game, and they get the incompletion, the tip away. Like, that has been the specialty. I even asked Spags at the end of the year, I said, what do you think was different this year? And he goes, you're right. That's something we really take pride in, is getting those unblocked pressures. It doesn't seem like those happened as much in 2025. And so if I'm Steve Spagnuolo, that's probably the top of my to-do list on the whiteboard in the offseason, is not only studying other teams and things you can learn, but like, where did that go from like a great Chiefs strength to like non-existent in the course of a year? Do you need to get McDuffie back in the slot more to take advantage of it? I mean, what needs to happen to get that more into the pass rush? The second thing is, we talk about injuries. George Karlaftis was dealing with a thumb almost the whole season. I think it impacted his production. You saw he won the team's Courage Award that's voted on by the players. I don't think that's any coincidence. He was asked midseason about his thumb injury and playing through it, and you could tell he didn't want to make an excuse, but he had basically nothing to say, like, well, we're all, hurt. So you could tell it's affecting him. Especially think about pass rushing and the get off as well. I think it's something, seeing him in the locker. Remember the Dallas game, just kind of seeing him grimace as he was taking the brace off and, letting it, grabbing it. And you could tell it was bothering him. So I think he's worked so much with former Chief Tom Hali with hand movement and with all those things. I think it affected him a lot. It brings up a weird point, though, guys, is that if you look at the Chiefs' pressures, like PFF, and some of the numbers that are usually more consistent with good pass rush, they were okay. Like Karlaftis' pressure numbers were okay. I do think kind of unclutch again when we talk about third downs. What you remember is the times Chris Jones got in the backfield immediately and didn't get the guy on the ground, or the times that George Karlaftis didn't get the guy on the ground, or Drew Tranquill loses contain, or Chris Jones loses contain in the first game against Justin Herbert. So I think some fundamental things didn't go right for them. I think some missed opportunities didn't go right for them. But at the same time, I look at their pressure numbers and their sack numbers, and they're not as far off as I would think based on compared to some other playoff teams. But having said all that, if we're just talking, I talk analytics, eye test, My guess is they need a pass rusher, guys. Like I felt like they were one pass rusher short this whole season, and so all things being equal, I think they would love at the number 9 pick to either take a defensive tackle or an edge rusher if they felt that was worthy, because it felt like that was the one missing piece that kept them from a couple wins last year. So I think all of the above. I think it'll be better next year just based off some of those things going a little bit better. Ashton Gelati was a rookie. We saw like George Karlaftis from his first year to second year take a big leap. You'll see that with Ashton Gelati learning to get off the ball quicker. It's something that rookies always do. So it should be better in the future. But it did seem to me like the one really big bugaboo for the Chiefs and the thing that kept them from winning so many games is couldn't get off the field on third down. And that's because it seemed like they were one pass rusher short. So I expect them to address it in the offseason. I expect them to address it in the draft pretty early, just based off what you guys saw and what all of us saw as well.
Yeah. And I think having Norman Lott come back and then
big deal.
Gelati getting some playing time, I do think there's some fixes in-house.
So, Jesse, with your GM hat on, what's your number one priority this offseason and why?
So, Brett Veach, I think, does a really good job, the Chiefs GM, of he tries to clear his list of needs in free agency just to have a base level of competency so he doesn't have to go in the draft and go, I have to draft Jeremiah Love or I have to draft Caleb Downs. So I guess we're taking this section by section. If I'm Brett Veach, I already told you, day 1, day 2, I'm getting a free agent running back. One of those 5 guys we just talked about. Breece Hall, Kenneth Walker, down the list. ETN, one of those guys, Algier, is going to be on my team next year. I'm going to cover that base level. I'm not going to go in the draft having to draft Jeremiah Love. The second thing is to figure out the cap space, which we all know the Chiefs $58 million over right now, which is the worst mark in the NFL. They can do some clearing up with Mahomes and Chris Jones restructures, but how much of that do you want to kick down the road? How much do you not want to make every year from now on miserable? But even with that, they got to clear some space for Travis Kelce becomes back, which it seems more and more likely by the day that he is thinking about coming back. So that's another thing. But free agency to me, running back. You have to get a running back. If you get some defensive line depth, that would help. But running back to me would be the main one. And then draft, I would be looking defensive line receiver of that first pick. It'd be very, very tough for me. Our guy at The Athletic, Dane Brugler, does, I think, as good a job as anybody covering the draft and just going detailed into his list. And I've heard him on podcasts talk about the reason you take a safety like Caleb Downs or a running back like Jeremiah Love is that the depth of the talent in this draft is not as high as other drafts. And those guys are like the surest things. So like, if your floor is high, you just know these guys are going to be contributors. Maybe you take them in a year like this where you don't know if the top receiver is Justin Jefferson, but he might be George Pickens. You know what I mean? So I hear that argument. But if you're the Chiefs, I mean, it's just so funny. A year ago, we were with Brett Veach at the Combine, and he said we were talking about their left tackle issue. And he said he joked with Andy Reid, like, I know how to get a left tackle. I just suck a year and then go into the top 10 of the draft and get one. Well, the Chiefs don't get these top 10 draft picks. They haven't had a top 10 draft pick since Patrick Mahomes in 2017. And to get that one, they had to trade the next year's first round draft pick and another pick besides that. So they don't get these resources very often. It would be very tough for me to not take one of those premium positions, whether it's receiver, defensive tackle, defensive end, or offensive tackle. I mean, if you want to talk about setting up the Chiefs for a long time, if they got themselves a right tackle, if Francis, I'm going to mispronounce his name, I'm so sorry. There's got to be a Maningoa. It sounds like an NG in there. Maningoa. I took him in a mock draft earlier this week or last week as well. If you can solidify your offensive line, the bottom line is the Chiefs don't get this crap at the draft very often. And so I think they need to hit on a premium position. I think they need to try to land that and get us started there at a cheap cost for a few years because they've paid their other guys. They've paid Creed. They've paid Trey. They've paid Patrick. They've paid Chris Jones. So now it's time to fill in some of those positions with guys on the cheap. And I think this is your one chance to really get that based off of a 6-11 season you didn't see coming.
Yeah. All right, Jesse, let's talk about the NFL Combine coming up, as you just mentioned. Let's talk about the entire NFL. So from your perspective, what's the biggest storyline league-wide heading into this year's Combine?
Do I go back to the Raiders again? Go Fernando?
I'd love to.
Nobody goes back to the Raiders.
Tell them they're trading that first overall pick for like a 7th and 8th round pick, you know.
Oh, my God, yeah.
Jamarcus Russell Jr.
No. Please, no.
The greatest Jamarcus Russell story is the one where I'm going to tell it wrong. I'm sure you know it, Cody, where the coach gave DVD to watch.
And it was blank. And it's like, oh, yeah, Coach, love all the plays.
It
wasn't anything on the DVD. Yeah,
a totally
no.
blank DVD. Hopefully Fernando won't be that way. I've seen it. He'll be good. He'll take the. You'll have to teach him what a DVD is and how to use it.
Yeah. What's wild is Mendoza's age would be like, wait, DVD? Do you guys? What's a DVD player?
Yes, exactly. It's like an 8-track for me growing up. Like, what
Yeah.
is this thing? I would say the coaching changes, guys. I mean, they bring all of the coaches and GMs to this place to talk, and you're talking what? Is it 11 new coaches, 12 new coaches in the NFL? It's crazy. And a lot of teams, man, I mean, the Bills are taking a chance here. You know, like if you look, it's crazy. You go from 2020 on to now, and you look, and you just ran the numbers on points scored, points allowed, point differential, win percentage. The Bills lead all of them. Like they blow everybody. They are number one in points scored, number one in points allowed, fewest points allowed, number one, obviously, in point differential, and then number one in win-loss total. They just fired their coach. So, I mean, like, I want to hear this Joe Brady guy. It's like, you tell me your plan, buddy, like, because this is a big deal. This is an interesting one. And so, you know, the Ravens having a new coach, and they haven't forever. Pittsburgh, there's a lot of intriguing storylines, but these guys, this is the first time you get put through the ringer. I mean, they get up on the podium, on the stage, or all the cameras, there's all the reporters. This is your first welcome to the NFL coaching moment. So I think that'll be the overwhelming storyline, just new coaches and new faces and new places. And obviously optimism that comes with that, but a lot of questions as well, especially for some of these teams, Ravens, Steelers, Bills, that have been successful with previous coaches, now having to try out new ones. There's got to be a little bit of a hold your breath aspect to that, I would think, when it comes to these new coaches.
So going into the combine, which position groups should Chiefs fans kind of pay attention to?
Yeah, I mean, I just want to see what the stock does here with these guys. Edge rusher, Bailey, it feels like a couple weeks ago he was going to be 11th or 12th. Now it feels like he's going to be 3rd from Texas Tech. And you always have to watch certain guys. Like in my first mock draft for the Athletic, there's a tight end out of Cincinnati. I don't even remember his name, but like, because he's a tight end out of Cincinnati, like I have to pay attention to him, because potentially Travis Kelce might want to help that guy more than he would others to be the next Travis Kelce. Anytime there's a Texas Tech player out there that's good, that potentially could help the Chiefs, it's like, you know, Patrick Mahomes might be calling up his GM and texting him and saying, I mean, it's kind of like, we know what LeBron does in the NBA, you know, he picks his coach, he picks his teammates. I mean, Mahomes has a little bit of that as well. You gotta make sure that guy's happy and make sure he's good. So I'd say edge rusher. So watch the Bailey kid, watch Ruben Bain. We'll see if he falls to that point. I would look at receiver. It'll be interesting to see who the Chiefs. The Chiefs always love their run after catch guys, but we saw last year them struggle with man coverage and not have that receiver on the outside. So it makes me wonder if they'll go for a Carnell Tate type who gets comped a lot to a guy like George Pickens. And then, I mean, I'm interested to hear. Brett Veach will be asked at the combine about Jeremiah Love and Caleb Downs. I mean, what is the take on those guys? I think it would be hard for them to justify those picks unless you're just in the mindset like I told you about with Dane Brugler, where you just say, cannot screw this pick up. We don't feel good about the other guys. We want to take a player that we know has a high floor and we know is going to contribute right away. And we also know that Chiefs defensive system takes a long time to get. Safeties usually struggle to start with. And then running back, I mean, we know that the Clyde Edwards-Helaire first-round pick will always loom over for the Chiefs. Any running back they take in the first round from now on will be met with a heavy dose of skepticism. So I would say watch all those positions. I mean, watch offensive tackle in case things fall that way. And like I said, I see Francis Mauingoa. I see him going as high as 3rd in a lot of these mock drafts. So if he fell to the Chiefs at that point and they wanted to take care of their offensive line for a long time, you potentially could take that position and take a premium position as well. But all things being equal, I think defensive line or receiver is what the Chiefs will take with their first pick. But we'll get more answers from Brett Veach when we get to the combine and see what he has to say about all this as well.
Yeah, I think that Cincinnati tight end tore KU apart this last season. That's the only reason why I even remember who that one was. But so with all of these, there's always the diamonds in the combine that kind of shoot and help their draft stock. I'm looking at like Anthony Hills, Jacob Rodriguez, some of those guys. Who in your mind are some prospects that may skyrocket through the combine?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's usually those guys that test well, obviously. And, we've seen some of that come about. And recent drafts where, this guy hit a 40 time you didn't think, or this guy really impressed during certain interviews. But probably too early to know, especially for like a Chiefs focus. But I mean, if I'm the Chiefs, what happened last year, if I'm being honest with you guys, like the Chiefs knew last year was a draft to take a running back early-ish.
Mm-hmm.
And they sat with their 4th round pick. They had one late. And then if you guys go to the board, like the 4th round just went running back, and like right before them. Like all those guys at potential, ETN, the younger ETN, Caleb Sampson, Woody Marks, like all these guys that potentially could have taken went off the board, and they missed their opportunity to get running back when the draft just didn't fall their way. Well, this year, you're looking at that, like there seems to be a clear separation between Love and everybody else, but like I want to see where those everybody else's fall, because that could be a really good spot for the Chiefs to say, hey, 3rd round now it's time to take the running back to pair with ETN or whoever the other running back is you signed in free agency. Now you got your tandem. Now you've taken care of that problem. Now you have a backup plan there. Now you have a little bit of juice with your legs as well. So I know there's a kid out of Nebraska that some guys like, kind of shooting up a little bit lately. I mocked the Chiefs guy from Penn State as well, which kind of fascinating because I wondered if the Chiefs might head down to Lawrence to go talk to Andy Kotelnicki about him, just because extra insight there. But I would be interested for the Chiefs which running backs kind of try to separate themselves in that second tier, because it's not as deep as a year ago, obviously. But if they do avoid the Jeremiah Love in the 1st round thing, I could definitely see them come back in the 3rd and saying, it's time to address this thing a year late, but still address it in a way that is very meaningful. They need to do that this year, and I think they have the resource to do it in the 3rd round potentially.
Right on. How much should teams really weigh on these combine testings compared to game film?
Well, that's tomato, right? I mean, that's where every team's different. That's why, it is fascinating. I feel like every year I write a story about how the Chiefs got their 1st round draft pick, and it's amazing to kind of hear the stories and how things shift based on things you don't expect. Like last year with Josh Simmons, it was like he came to the facility, the Chiefs facility. They had him in for a top 30 visit, and he was still doing his workout training that day with his knee. And they saw that, and they're like, oh, this kid's really committed. We didn't realize that level of it. And then they were unsure maybe about his competitiveness. And I remember talking, I think it was to Mike Bradway, the Chiefs assistant GM. And I guess that Simmons kind of shared with him, like, he was pissed off that he wasn't the number 1 tackle. Like, I should be the number 1 tackle. And they were like, well, this guy's got like a different fire compared to other people that they thought out there. And so you always hear these stories. And so, going back to Xavier Worthy, the Chiefs, I had that in my story a year ago where the Chiefs basically texted each other to say, well, there goes that guy when he broke the 40 record. Like, they had their eye on him. They wanted him. They're like, well, he broke the 40 record. He's going top 15 now. So you never know how these things play out, because obviously Xavier fell back down. The Chiefs snatched up and got him. They like him, the skill set. They love what he can do. They obviously love him having speed on the field. So it is amazing, though, when everything comes down to it and push comes to shove, how you hear these stories. And sometimes these tiny things can push you in different directions. But I think the right answer is a marriage, like we talked about. I mean, you want to leave no stone unturned. You definitely want the measurables. You want to not take an outlier that has never succeeded in the NFL before, if you're not confident in his ability or him having something different than everybody else has had. But, you also want to meet with these guys. And listen, for every, the Chiefs decide to take a chance on Rashee Rice, you can say it played out well on the field. You can say it hasn't played out well off the field. But I can tell you there's been certain players that have been completely off their boards that other teams have taken as well. So every team sort of has their own risk tolerance with that. But bottom line is just trying to get as much good info as you can. And if we go based off history, we go based off of the Brett Veaches, the Mike Bradways of the world. The Chiefs have a good record when it comes to scouting. And I think they believe in their building that that is one of their main advantages. So when it comes to the Chiefs, I think they're going to go heavy in that route because that's helped them well and served them well before. But the perfect option is probably to make sure all voices are heard and trying to get as much information as possible to make sure you avoid missteps of the past that could have been easily avoided. And so we'll see what the Chiefs can do this year after trying to figure out maybe what they didn't do as well in some previous seasons.
Yeah. So speaking of the Chiefs, they've done pretty well middle to late rounds in drafts for a good stretch of years now. So who are 1 or 2 under the radar prospects? And I don't know if you've had a chance to really dive into it yet, but who are 1 or 2 of the under the radar prospects that you think are just like perfect fits for the Chiefs?
Yeah, I mean, I have to go back to my mock draft to get the exact names. It is pretty early with this stuff, but there are some of these positions where you're going and researching them, and you're saying, "Hey, the Chiefs could really use X, and this could, fit them well in the 5th or 6th round." I just talked, I was going for, I took the Cincinnati tight end for the Chiefs in that particular mock draft, but the previous one, there was one who came off, and I think it was from A&M. But anyways, really good blocking tight end, and you're thinking, "Oh my gosh." It's a 5th round pick. You don't normally spend it on that, but the Chiefs and where the NFL is going and the way that the Chiefs utilize tight ends, that sort of thing really could be. And there are something they could look to deliver because they don't have it right now. And they don't have it on their roster. They don't have it on their practice squad. It's really something that they could utilize and have. So I would say that. I mean, I talked about the running backs before. I think they definitely need one of those. And then I am interested to see what they do at defensive tackle because they've got to get younger. I mean, It's been too many years of the Derek Nottie, Mike Pennell rotation. And what's been fascinating about the Chiefs is they don't really throw darts at this position for whatever reason. I remember a couple years ago, they took Keandre Coburn out of Texas as a 6th round pick, and he didn't stick around very long. But they have not taken many young defensive tackles. And again, Omar Normalat coming back will be a big advantage for them, but they need 1 or 2 more bodies there. And they need to stop this old man shuffle that they have in the middle there, or trading back for other guys that even the Jets don't want. I mean, they need younger bodies there and more upside potentially there. So I haven't looked too closely at those names, but yeah, you look down the list and you say, hey, even if there's a 6th round pick, maybe he's not a great pass rusher like Omar Normalat is, but he's a run stuffer and a 2-gapper. The Chiefs could use that. I mean, they could definitely use a guy that could hold up better up front. Because I'll tell you right now, the reason Brian Cook's going to get paid $15 million in free agency as a safety is he was a sure tackler. And they're not going to have explosive runs because he was back there and he got guys on the ground. He's probably not coming back to the Chiefs. So they need their front to be better and not be as leaky. And so going to be looking late in the draft, at least if they don't address it earlier, and figure out what they can do at defensive tackle. For some reason, they just have not put volume in to try to get that position solved. They need to do it this season for sure.
Yep.
All right, let's go to the lightning round, y'all. So, Jesse, who is your way too early AFC West prediction or predictive winner?
Do the right thing here, Jesse. You know you want to.
Give it an order, 1 through 4. Go with the gut.
So no win situation. I'm either the homer or I'm the. I just said Chiefs would be like 11 wins, right? So now I've got to officially go on the record to say I'm going to be one of those Chargers offseason guys, or I get to go with the Broncos. I'll go Raiders last. How's that?
Hell yeah.
Yeah, that's easy.
Well, at least you gave me some realistic expectations and not say, you know what, it might be a good season.
I will say Chiefs. You got the biggest Chiefs optimist on here, just based off the advanced numbers. I'll go Chiefs, Broncos, Chargers, Raiders.
Okay.
But close at the top, obviously.
Good. Let's piss off them Charger fans that were all over Matt and I during our lives.
Oh, today too.
Yeah.
My Lord. So what is your bold offseason move that the Chiefs are going to make?
Old offseason move. Wow, that's a good one. Yeah, unfortunately, they don't have much cap space. So there's only so much bold you can talk about. I don't know how bold this is on the outside. I do think they have to trade Trent McDuffie. I think they'll trade him for a first-round pick. So there you go. That'll be my bold move for them. I just do not see how they can continue to pay every single one of their players that they develop. And for me, if I'm Brett Veach, Steve Spagnuolo and defensive backs coach Dave Merritt are so good at turning guys like Kevin Knowles and Chris Roland Wallace and Najee Johnson and Jalen Watson into players that are 7th-round picks or undrafted free agents.
Noel Williams.
Noel Williams, they traded up for him in the 3rd round, but still, they are just so good at turning straw into gold there that I can't sign a guy to $30 million. I can't do it. So yeah, I'll go bold. I mean, I don't know how bold it is, but I think I got to trade McDuffie. I think there should be suitors for him: Rams, Cowboys, Vikings. I mean, I think there's teams out there that would absolutely love to. And he's everything off the field, guys. Like, he is great to talk to in the locker room, perfect in the community, like great person, great player, everything you could want. But I just don't think the Chiefs, with their record right now of paying everybody else, I don't know how they continue to pay everybody. They already are on the extreme when it comes to stars and paying all their stars, and then having basically a minimum roster on the bottom. So I think they got to trade him.
Yeah, it can't be that bold. I did see today that Trent McDuffie can apparently get a first-round pick and CeeDee Lamb from the Cowboys. Apparently. Yeah, that's wild, right?
Gotta love rumor season.
Gotta love it.
Whoa.
I mean, if that's out there, let's do this.
Is that a Madden trade or?
Yeah, I mean,
forced trades are on.
It was funny because in our beat writer mock, I was talking with the Vikings, right? You guys might know Alec Lewis used to cover the Royals for the Athletic.
Yep.
He's a Viking writer now, and so he was saying he was interested with the Vikings with the 18th pick. And I was ready to throw back a third rounder to him, like, hey, let's even this thing up. Like the 18th pick is pretty high, you know. So, but you know, in the vein of L'Jarius Sneed before, in the vein of Joe Tooney before, like you only pay so many guys. You have to figure out where all those resources go. And right now, if you are going to trade Trent McDuffie, now's the time to get a resource for him and not just let him play out the string and then get, you know, not much for him after the season next year in a compensatory pick or trying to franchise him, whatever. So now's the time. I think they've got to move if they're going to do it.
So we kind of got your opinion on, you know, whether the Chiefs should lean on the first round, but is there one draft prospect that you're just like absolutely pounding the table for right now at that 9 spot?
I do need to study these guys more. For me, just based off of what I heard so far, and again, the fit that potentially would be with the Chiefs, you know, like those edge rushers, just to me, it just would feel like a home run for them if they landed a Bailey or a Bain. I know Bain again. I just talked about all the reasons you wouldn't want to take him, but I watched that guy in the playoffs, and I'm just like, dude, that motor next to Chris Jones or whoever else you want to put out with him, Karlaftis. Yeah. That's the type of thing that would really fit in. So I can't imagine at 9 if either of those players are available and the Chiefs wouldn't run the pickup to get that. But, you know, I watched some film today of Carnell Tate. I like him as a receiver, and I think it's a little bit different from what they have, which is sort of what they need. He's not a run-after-catch guy, but that's okay because Jalen Royals is a run-after-catch guy, and Rashee Rice is a run-after-catch guy, and Xavier Worthy's become a run-after-catch guy. So, like, to get some diversity there, contested catch guy, a guy who can have some route separation, a guy who's still growing into his body, who doesn't drop the football. I think that's the sort of player they really could use and get him away a little bit, just to diversify their portfolios in the receiver room where they've usually been short and fast. Get somebody else in there to try to kind of diversify things. We always hear QB friendly with Carnell Tate as well. Mahomes is QB friendly at this point.
Yeah. All right, Jesse. So thinking of the league now, league-wide, and this is just in your opinion, what player do you think is most likely to get traded in the NFL?
Max Crosby. I got the Raiders every time, right?
For a 7th-round pick.
Max Crosby. Listen, this is a no-brainer, guys. I mean, he had the frustrations at the end of the year. He wanted to play. The Raiders wanted their number 1 pick, rightfully so. This is a timeline thing. I mean, you got to match up timelines here. And for Max, he wants to go play, I'm sure, for a contender. He wants to do that now. He doesn't know how many years he has left, and a contender should certainly want him.
Right.
We talk about what the compensation McDuffie can get, maybe a first-round pick, maybe. Like, all I hear from Max is 2 firsts. If you're the Raiders, how could you turn down 2 firsts?
That's what I'm – yeah.
How?
So – and what I've been seeing too is last season when the Pete Carroll hire and all that, you saw Max get excited and say us as the Raiders were excited for this. And then, you know, the whole Clint Kubiak being hired. And then he talked about it. He's excited for Clint's opportunity, but he made no references about, you know, oh, this is great for us as the Raiders. It was very much like a PC kind of like, yeah, it's great. It's positive. You know, we're all going to work hard and it is what it is. And I've seen those type of statements by players that are like 1 foot out the door. And I think you're right that he's probably the most likely player to get traded, even though Rob Leonard's coming back. And, you know, there's going to be a couple other guys that he's gone through with coaching ranks and stuff, but it makes too much sense for him and the Raiders to just allow him to go be a contender and the Raiders get a lot of value back in some perspective. So that way, one, it helps them build and allows Max to go do his thing and be great on another team, even though I don't want that to happen, but I feel like you're right.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those tough decisions, but the biggest move that Brett Veach made, and this is different scenarios because I just talked about timelines lining up, but the biggest move he's made as the GM for the Chiefs was trading Tyreek Hill, which is the same thing. You're trading a guy at the peak of his powers, but what he brought back, in part, was Trent McDuffie and got all those draft picks and got younger. And it's tough decisions, but I'm telling you, like, for where the Raiders are at right now, to bring back that sort of draft pick volume and then get things going, get your Fernando mania going, get a couple other draft picks lined up, you could see this thing built up pretty quickly. And quick note, by the way, talking about me being old and covering, former Chiefs receivers coaches, Clint Kubiak, it was a former KU receivers coach.
He was,
back in the day. So, the KU pipeline is alive and well when it comes to NFL coaches.
No doubt.
Yeah. So also we have Kobe Baines joining us tomorrow from Kansas, entering the draft, for those of you still tuning in, watching. But speaking of Tyreek Hill, final question for you. Do you want Tyreek back?
Wow, what a complicated question.
It is.
I think it's clear Tyreek wants to be back. We can start with that, which makes this thing pretty complicated. I don't think the Chiefs trade Tyreek without number 15 signing off on it to begin with, years back. The injury makes it really complicated because he's a player based only off of speed. And will that come back fully at age, whatever is 32, 33? How much would he even have him this year if he comes back? That's a question. And then, guys, I got to be honest, like, my mind goes to that receiver room and how you sort of saw some not so great signs late in the year when it came to, accountability, drops, leadership, and then the Rashee Rice stuff that has happened off the field. And then thinking about potentially adding Tyreek Hill to that mix. The Chiefs are about chemistry and figuring out exactly what pieces are right for their room. I don't know that would be a great fit based off of, what has happened with Tyreek off the field as well. So for me, it would be a no. But knowing his history and knowing how badly he seems to want to return to the Chiefs, I can't say it's a no. I can't say that they'll say it's a no. And how desperate they always will be for receivers and obviously guys like that fit their offense and have fit their offense in the past. So that'll be one to track for sure. I think it's a harder sell for the Chiefs than it is for Tyreek for sure. And the injury sort of complicates things. The off-the-field stuff complicates things. But the Chiefs had to figure out what they want to do with that room. And it goes back to the original question I asked about 30 minutes ago, which was Rashee Rice. It's just such a linchpin of their offseason is like, do you extend this guy? Do you not? Is he part of your long-term plans? Is he not? That could make up for a lot of the answer with the Tyreek Hill situation as well. But for me, probably not. With the Chiefs, I don't know. TBD for now, because I'm sure a reunion makes a lot of sense to a lot of people at this point.
As long as it's extremely team friendly and like contract wise, and it's like more incentive based and playing like incentives, I think I'm okay with it. But yeah, I go back and forth on it. Like sometimes you just got to move on.
He wants to be back. I mean, guys, I go on 810 radio in Kansas City every week on Thursday mornings, and Derek Dieter goes on the hour before me. And so I listen to them, as I'm coming in, and, he's really good, close friends with Tyreek. And every week, like, was the update, just like how Tyreek was texting him, got to get back to Kansas City. I mean, he's put it out on social media. He wants to get back to Kansas City. So he has made it clear where he wants to play football next year. Now it's up to the Chiefs to decide if that's a good fit or not.
All right, Jesse, thanks again for your time tonight, man. We can't thank you enough for bringing your insight and just talking football. And we hopefully get you back on here again, just make this a thing, just because we really do love having you on. And again, Dallas will always pay those invoices that he, charity, the poker charity for that. So, guys, do you have anything else before we let Jesse get out of here?
Jesse, it was a blast, man. Thank you so much for giving me some lighthearted humor and some optimism for my Raiders. So appreciate you, bud.
I appreciate it. And any optimism from me for your Raiders is total BS. So Raiders 9-8 in 2026. So there you go, Cody. Something to look forward to.
There we go. All right.
Thanks again, Jesse.
Take care, bud. Oh my
All
God.
right, guys.
BS.
I mean, again,
I like how every guest we've had on the show always make sure the Raiders suck.
Literally.
I mean, I am almost like, oh, that's a real like tip of the cap, but it's also like, is it though? Like, man, the Raiders.
At least Sly Williams, when he was on, he was nice about it. He's like, look, man, It's not going to get better.
It's just not. I don't see how.
Yeah, and right now there's a lot of optimism going on around Raider Nation for all the young coaching hires now. So like we've got one of the younger now coaching staffs in the NFL, rather than last year we had one of the older ones. So now we're completely 180 from where we were last year. So now we'll see with the draft and how delusional we get come kickoff time. So I can't wait to give you guys the Raiders making a playoff prediction or something. So
I'm not making the same mistake in my predictions as I did this last year. No, sir.
I don't think Raiders and playoffs need to be in the same sentence quite yet, Cody.
Yeah, I fudged up. I put them in the
Maybe
playoffs
in like Madden 2004, but
maybe like 2001-ish.
Is that with Eddie George on the front? No, that was with Marshall Falk on the front cover, isn't it? No?
One of those. I don't know.
Yeah.
So far ago, dude.
So as Austin alluded to a few minutes ago, Kobe Bain, KU offensive lineman, will be joining us tomorrow as he's working his way into the NFL draft. So it's actually going to be our first NFL draft prospect that we've had on the channel. So we're very excited for that. Big news coming for next week. Do you want to share that?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of definitely threw it out on my socials a little bit, but next week we are having former Chiefs receiver and current rapper Dwayne Bowe on our podcast next week. He's excited to hop on here, talk ball a little bit, get a little bit of that life in the rap game going on too.
Matt can relate.
Matt can relate.
Yeah, my brothers.
Absolutely. But no, he was part of some of those really good teams, and he had kind of a really good stretch of seasons and games in Kansas City. So really excited to have him on here, ask him about some of the big moments. He was another one who had some big time games against Denver. I know we had DJ on and talked about his big game. So yeah, really excited to get Dwayne Bowe on here and really just cover everything from football to the rap game.
That's really awesome. I remember having him on some fantasy football rosters, and he came through clutch for me in some important games. So that's a huge get, Austin. That's awesome.
It is. I remember post Dwayne Bowe, Chiefs went like 13 games without a touchdown to a receiver.
I think they went an entire season without a touchdown.
It was a long time. It was embarrassing.
It was a long time, yeah.
But you had Dwayne Bowe, who was, no matter how you felt about him, he was a red zone target, and he was a threat to take every slant house because he, just to be frank, he was a brick shit house at receiver. Like, he was massive. So super excited about that. Super excited to have Dwayne Bowe on and keep this thing rolling.
Hell yeah.
Maddie, how's the TikTok lives going? Did you say you had some fun on those?
So not so much because I haven't been live in
Not
a
so
while.
much fun.
Not so much.
But I made a post this morning talking about how the Broncos, 5 years ago, 2021, basically it was like chaos to relevance, where they were to where they are now.
Oh,
and some little Professor Dickweed Chargers fan got on there and just started attacking Sean Payton. It wasn't even about Sean Payton. It was just like, all that posturing on the sideline to end up in the basement, this, that, and the third. I was basically going at Sean Payton. And I'm
Sean
like,
Payton hasn't been in the basement with Denver.
And I was gonna say, if the same, he was like the same basement. I was like, bro, we made the AFC Championship. Your quarterback has been in the league 6 years and hasn't even won a playoff game. So
is that the same one that said that they were keeping receipts on something?
Yeah. So then I made a little thing on TikTok. Yeah,
it's
the same shit that you take the junk mail and you just put it in the drawer so it collects dust. So if he wants to add to his receipts, not only has Bo Nix won a division title before Justin Herbert, won a playoff game before Justin Herbert, but he's going to win a Super Bowl before Justin Herbert. So add that to your little pile of dust, Professor Dickweed.
Well, even that though, like even as a Chiefs fan and like a fan of another team, I thought it was kind of cool to just see. You kind of get lost in like the process, right? Like we know Denver was in the AFC Championship game this year, but you don't realize it was just a couple years ago. It was chaos.
Mm-hmm.
Like you really don't. So like that post in general kind of just made you realize like this was the process, and it really did only take a couple years for them to get to where they are from chaos. So like Charger fans are going to Charger, man. Like I know. I
mean, Charger fans are one bad season away from being right back there. So
yeah, I mean they're.
with the new little passing game coordinator, who knows what's going to happen?
Yeah. I mean, what if the Chargers totally shit the bed this year? And then to be fair, Caleb isn't here to really defend this point, but what happens if the Chargers shit the bed with Harbaugh and McDaniel and all these guys? Then what? Like, does everyone then lose their jobs and they hit the reset button? So I don't know.
But they're one of the few teams that literally can't talk because they don't even have a history to like sleep on. Like, yeah, even the Cowboys can talk a little bit of like 90s. Like, yes, it's been a long time, but at least they have a history.
Mm-hmm.
Like the Chargers are one of the few teams like you got to just opt out of conversations, man.
And as we know, as you all noticed, Caleb's not here tonight. He will be out this week. He'll be back with us next week. Work obligations in, I don't remember where, but either way. So again, thanks again to Jesse for joining us. Make sure you guys hit that subscribe button. I know YouTube was messing up earlier, so if you guys are able to watch on YouTube and haven't subscribed yet, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button. We're going to call it a night because we have to do this again tomorrow with KU offensive lineman Kobe Baines will be in the studio with us, our first NFL draft prospect, hopefully one of many to come. So again, guys, give us a quick shout out to our sponsors. Again, thank you to Vide Coffee, Rival Codes, Troy and his team at Field Ops, Kansas, Angie and her team at Emporia State Federal Credit Union. Awesome to see some of their social media posts from yesterday. So awesome job for the credit union staff and Angie and her group. And the one and only Jeff, JBW Solutions, and we are recording out of the JBW Solutions studio. So with that being said, on behalf of all the guys here, we will see you guys tomorrow night.